Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. So glad. Hey, John. Good morning to you. So glad you're here. I hope you are enjoying these fall days. I hope they're turning sweet for you. It's going to be beautiful up there. So, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Bob Guinan. Good to see you. I'm glad you're well. Thank you for all your work on Sunday, and it's always good to be at the Lord's table. That was good. It was good stuff. So, good morning, Sherry Ladd. How are you? Ah, good to see Sherry Ladd. Those those little ones of yours are not so little. That How is everybody? Good morning. Good morning. See some more people coming in. Great to see everybody. Good morning. Good morning. So, some Sundays ago, somebody, one of my folks here at church came up. This was a few months ago now, and handed me a little note on their way out of church. And when they handed me a little note, they kind of like I was like, oh, okay. Sometimes it happens, so I kind of just put it in my pocket and pulled it out later, and I got this. No prayer for 7 days makes 1 week. Nah, nah. So funny. Like, the pun is the lowest form of humor. I'm not going to out them because, it is the lowest form of humor. But there's something in that which was uh, beautiful because I came back across it after a while, and it's those moments that make our gathering sweet. Not the puns, really, not the puns, but these moments of like being together and having time together and like being able to joke and to kind of see the glint in one another's eyes when we do something silly or meaningful or fun, or our heart breaks, or we rejoice in our in success, or we are disappointed, or whatever it is. All of that is, and so finding that just reminded me of the richness on the beauty and the joy of being church together, and that we had worship Sunday, and it was a good day. Good morning, Jamie. Good morning, Donna. So glad you're here. And I hope you're a part of that in some way. I know you're a part of it right here, but in some ways it's struggling to pass me a note. But you are. But as we gather, it is all of that. So it is this morning, Tuesday, the 6th day of October. It's the 6th day of October. 11/11. I'm so glad you're here. This week on Thursday, we are going to begin a journey, a study. It's about this book called Mere Christianity by a guy by the name of C.S. Lewis. I think C.S. Lewis is the bee's knees. He is a theologian, and he was an active theologian, an active apologist, as it is said, for Christianity. Hey, good morning, Lori. So glad you're here. Thanks for being with us. Good morning, Robin. Robin's here, everybody. And Robin missed the pun. I hope you'll have to come back for the pun, Robin. It was just for you. So, not just for you. It's for all of us, really. But C.S. Lewis was a theologian in the middle of the last century. He was an amazing guy. You probably know him by the Narnia series, The Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe, all that sort of stuff. But he did a series of radio talks. He was recruited by the BBC to give a series of radio talks about Christianity during the Blitz of World War II, during some of the hardest times of the English people as they were getting bombed, literally in the middle of wartime. He gave these hour-long, 45-minute long talks on the radio that were listened to by nearly every household. Lewis talked about his faith in the middle of bombs falling on people's heads, and the country rallied around. Millions of people listened to his words. Now, those words were collected into this book called Mere Christianity, and it is a kind of explanation of of his understanding of the wider Christian walk. And we're going to spend 8 weeks watching some videos and talking about it. If you want to read it, that's great. All of that is to say that I want to talk a little bit about him this week as we get ready for it. You're all welcome to join in. We're doing it both locally here at FCC Fall River, so you can join in person, and I certainly hope you do. But we'll also have a Zoom component, so that'll be on the Facebook ad. There'll be a Zoom link on there, so that or you can message us for it and make sure you get that. So if you want to be a part of that, that'll be on Thursday at 7:30 to 8:30. A little later in the evening, so the opportunity to maybe have some people plugged in. Okay, all of that is to get to what I wanted to talk to this morning, which is Lewis's words. So after World War II, he is and if you'll remember, what ended World War II was the atomic bomb, and so he was asked to his response about how should we live in an atomic age. How should we live in this age? Remember, these were people who are navigating this idea that everything at any moment could be reduced to ash. Their entire lives, everything they've ever known, everyone they've ever known, could be reduced to ash at any second. We're a people that have kind of contended with that. And either we put it in the back of our head, we walk through the world with it, we deal with it, whatever. When in the 40s, when they were encountering this, they took this seriously. That what happens if everything I know, everything that I am, everything I've ever known, everyone I've ever known turns to ash in the blink of an eye? And he says, how are we? And so the question was put to him, how are we to live? And this was his response. And I want to share it with you. I may have shared it before, but I think it's important to come. I think all of this time, that even more now than when this thing first kicked off in March, the changes to our world and the way that they continue to change, the political atmosphere, our emotional atmosphere, the level of anxiety that everybody is carrying, the level of uncertainty, all of it is, I think, is even more powerful to this question about how are we to live in this atomic age? And I think how are we to live in this age? I don't even want to call it a COVID age, because I don't think it's a COVID age. I think COVID's going to be in the rearview mirror. But I think that what the changes, the weirdness that it has brought is still the weirdness that we're going to contend with. And so Lewis writes this: how are we to live in an atomic age? I am tempted to reply, why, as you would have lived in the 16th century when the plague visited London almost every year, or as you would have lived in a Viking age when raiders from Scandinavia might land and cut your throat in any night, or indeed as you are already living in an age of cancer, or an age of syphilis, or an age of paralysis, or an age of air raids, or an age of railway accidents, an age of motor accidents. In other words, do not let us begin by exaggerating the novelty of our situation. Believe me, dear sir or madam, you and all whom you love were already sentenced to death before the atomic bomb was invented. And quite a high percentage of us were going to die in unpleasant ways. We had, indeed, one very great advantage over our ancestors: anesthetics. But we have that still. It is perfectly ridiculous to go about whimpering and drawing long faces because the scientists have added one more chance of painful and premature death to a world which already bristled with such chances, and in which death itself was not a chance at all, but a certainty. This is the first point to be made, and the first action to be taken is to pull ourselves together. If we are going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, let that bomb, when it comes, find us doing sensible and human things. Praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting with our friends over a pint and a game of darts, not huddled together like frightened sheep and thinking about bombs. They may break our bodies. A microbe can do that. But they need not dominate our minds. That quote led me to this piece of scripture as I was thinking about it that I want to share with you. And this is from the Message translation. So you've heard it, but you've probably heard it, but you may have heard it differently. If you've never heard it, I think this is a wonderful way to hear these words. One time when Jesus was off praying by himself, his disciples nearby, he asked them, "What are the crowds saying about me? And about who I am?" They say the John the Baptizer. Others say Elijah. Still others say that one of the prophets from long ago has come back. And he asked, "And you, what are you saying about me? Who am I?" Peter answered, "The Messiah of God." And Jesus warned them to keep it quiet. They were to tell no one what Peter had said. And he went on, "It is necessary that the Son of Man proceed to an ordeal of suffering, be tried and found guilty by religious leaders, high priests, and religion scholars, be killed, and on the third day be raised up alive." And then he told them that what they could expect for themselves. Anyone who intends to come with me has to let me lead. You are not in the driver's seat. I am. Don't run from suffering. Embrace it. Follow me, and I will show you how. Self-help is no help at all. Self-sacrifice is the way, my way, to finding yourself, your true self. What good would it do to get everything you want and lose the real you? If any of you is embarrassed with me and the way I'm leading you, know that the Son of Man will be far more embarrassed with you when he arrives in all his splendor in company with the Father and the holy angels. This isn't, you realize, pie in the sky by and by. Some who have taken their stand right here are going to see it happen, see it with their own eyes, the very kingdom of God. Friends, we have this way about us that is hard in us, where we are trying to move the suffering of our days to the edges of our being. We're trying to anesthetize the worry. We're trying to anesthetize the suffering. We're trying to anesthetize the difficulty. We're trying to anesthetize all the stuff that we'd just rather not. We'd just rather not. I find myself with that phrase more often than I am proud to say. All in all, I would just rather not these days. Whatever it is. Jesus' invitation to us that I think is so beautifully laid out in what Lewis says is that we cannot put our suffering at bay, put our worry at bay, put our anxiety at bay, but we are to welcome it in and let it be a part of our loving our children in these moments. Let it be a part of our loving our friends in these days. Let it be a part of to bring it in to the wider conversation about the way that the the ancients would have when the Vikings were on the horizon, or when the very diseases of old came skulking around. Friends, don't run from suffering, embrace it. I love this Message translation. I love it because in a way it lets us hear with new ears. Peter, the author of it, Eugene Peterson, has done us a great service because it allows us to hear what are sometimes old and stock phrases in new ways. Don't run from our suffering. I know right now there are those of you who are with me in this that you're suffering in some way. If you're human, you're engaging some kind of suffering. You got a break in your heart. You've got a thing you can't understand. You've got a body that's betrayed you in some way. There's some suffering, and I can't encourage you anymore than to stop running, than to stop trying to anesthetize it, than to stop exaggerating the novelty of our situation, in the words of Lewis, because to be in the world is to be in a world where we will find and encounter suffering. And it is only through our looking it in the eye, through our engagement, through our understanding that it is not pie in the sky by and by. It's not some dreamy, fairy, heavenly thing out there, treasures in heaven that we've stocked up. But it is right here and right now that we are called to embrace the very suffering of the cross, of the Son of Man, and follow in the ways of the one who made us, understanding that self-help is no help at all. If you think you're going to figure this out, if you think you're going to master your own existential angst about dying, if you think you're going to make whatever it is around you is going to be the God, whether it is science or politics or brownies, all those things are going to fail and they're going to fall away. And at the end of the day, we're invited to embrace our suffering. I know this is a hard one. I know it's hard. It's a hard one from all of us, but it's the only true way to live. When Jesus was on the cross, he was offered a sponge. And that sponge was soaked in vinegar and myrrh. And it was held up by a stick by the people who loved him most. It was held up that if he sucked on it a little bit, you see myrrh and vinegar mixed the way it was, that was an anesthetic. It was a way of saying they loved him because they wanted to minimize his pain. They wanted to take away some of his pain, even to death on the cross. And they were holding up this thing, and Jesus, in one of his very last acts of that side of life, pushes it away because he wanted the full experience of being alive. Now, all kinds of theological stuff has been done with that over the years. All kinds of stuff has been dressed up. I want you to throw that out. I don't think any of that is real. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. But what I will say is when a dying, suffering man at the very heart of pain embraces his pain, we come through the other side to the resurrection. We come through the other side, not to death and destruction, but to new life and greater life. That's the way. That's the promise. That's what Jesus is trying to show the disciples when he says, "Who am I?" That's what he can show us, and that's what is true when we discover that our self-help is no help at all. And that self-sacrifice, Jesus' way of bracing and embracing and encountering our suffering face to face and head on, is the only true way in the holiness of angels. Vicky, good morning. I'm so tired. Honey, we are all tired. We are all exhausted. Some of us in soul, some of us in body, some of us in mind, some of us in spirit. But what I will say is embrace that, even the exhaustion itself. Embrace even that, bring it in and bring it to the one who made you and see what happens with it. Our constant pressing against the world to hold back that which is trying to afflict us is not the thing that will bring us home. For the first action, as to come to end again with Lewis's words, that first action is to pull ourselves together. We are all going to be destroyed. If we are all going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, let that bomb come when it finds us doing sensible and human things, praying and working and teaching and reading and listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting with our friends over a pint and a game of darts, not huddled together like frightened sheep and thinking about bombs, thinking about suffering, thinking about the things, the bad things that may happen, that are happening, that did happen. They may break our bodies. A microbe can do that. But they need not dominate our minds. I know, it's a hard one this morning, friends. But we've been through a lot. And I think we need to hear these words today. I think we need to hear the exhaustion of our desire to keep at bay the suffering we're enduring, but to bring it in, and in bringing it in, begin to live our lives. Just as those amongst the plague in the 16th century, those among the Viking Age, those who are now in the age of cancer and syphilis and paralysis, all of it. Walk in the way of Christ, friends. Walk in the way of Christ. We're all in this age, I think, being stripped down one way or another. And that means embracing our suffering. All the padding that we've used to keep it at bay. Now is the time, and today is the day, to bring it to the center of our being. To push away that which would anesthetize it. Whether it's a brownie or a book or a needle, whatever it is. And to know that in walking in the way of Jesus, we will find our way home. All right, friends, that's my thought for you today. That's where we are. I know, heavy stuff, but we're in a heavy age, and so we might talk a little bit more Lewis this week. We might, and I encourage you to maybe take a look at the study if you want to be a part of it. But mostly, I just encourage you to keep walking through the suffering, to keep enduring, because in it and through it, we walk in the way and the light of the one who made us. All right, friends, peace and grace to you all. And we will be back at 11:11 tomorrow.